Good evening. We live tonight with Jason Krychiw. How do you
Krychiw.
pronounce it again?
It's
Jason
Krychiw.
Krychiw.
Yeah.
Jason Krychiw. Let me not mispronounce his name like the political ad had him last year. Uh, Tonight on tonight's show, we want to discuss some of the issues facing Union. Union, New Jersey is where Jason and myself are both originally from. I moved a couple times, and Jason is still a resident there. He's
Mhm.
heavily involved with the town's comings and goings, the political scene, Board of Education, the Vauxhall Civic Society, as
Mhm.
well as just the community in general. Jason is heavily involved with this stuff, and glad you could join us tonight, Jason.
Thank you. Good seeing you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Uh, we had talked behind the scenes, Jason, about the Board of Education.
Mhm.
Apparently, they have changed the policy in regards to the public asking questions.
Mhm.
Do you know anything about the policy that they have just initiated?
Yeah. So I guess let me start by saying the good news is that at the meeting a couple nights ago, it got tabled for the time being. It doesn't mean it's not going to pop back up again at some point, but for the short term, it's off the table. But essentially, what the policy was about was um, normally at any board of education meeting or even a township committee meeting, at the end of the meetings, you have your public comment times. Any residents can go up and they can talk for 5 minutes maximum, and then as many residents can go up as are there at the meeting who want to speak. The policy number one wanted to limit it to only 3 minutes, which a little bit less time, but not the end of the world. But the main thing that I was upset by, and that I know a lot of other people were, was that it capped the number of people who could speak at 10 total people. So it was limiting the number of people who were allowed to speak at these meetings. And over the last year or so, there's been issues with a lot of the paraprofessionals losing their jobs, with students when some of the shootings were going on in the country, wanting to organize a march out, and so those meetings can get packed sometime with literally 100 plus people in the room, and they
Okay.
all want their chance to talk. So now when I see a policy that kind of tries to limit whose voice gets heard or how many people can talk at one time, that's what a lot of people I think were up in arms about. Thankfully, like I said, it did get tabled for the time being, but who's to say it won't pop up again in a month or 2 months or a year from now to try to do that again?
So do you think the a lot of the changes is a budget issue?
As far as the speaking stuff goes, you mean?
Yeah, like as far as time consuming, are they doing this for a time restraint, or uh, are
Mm-hmm.
they doing it for maybe people are regurgitating the same issues?
I think it's more of the second thing. With people coming up, maybe more as like a waste of time or something. They might see it as talking about the same sort of issue or same problem over and over again. Um, I think it's more that than budgetary stuff. Because the board of the education members are volunteer; they don't get paid. There's no real additional cost to having the meeting any longer or shorter than it might be if you have some extra people talking. So I definitely think it was more about kind of controlling how many people were speaking at a meeting and maybe what they're speaking about.
Okay. What about the one of the issues was, I know one of the residents in Union had advised me before about some of the politics that get played with Board of Education. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't know much about Board of Education. I don't know if it's an issue with Board of Education is supposed to be political. Some say it's in the bylaws. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't I don't know. I know that other districts don't really have these major issues where the Board of
Mm-hmm.
Education and the township have like this
Yeah.
not working together issue.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you like to elaborate on that? You know anything about that?
Yeah. 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 So in the state of New Jersey, while it's not strictly illegal, there is outlines in the Board of Education, like state level and school codes and things, where the Board of Education is supposed to be nonpartisan and non-political.
Okay.
Um, but what happens, like essentially, it's just supposed to be people running who want to serve the school board. But then what happens in Union, and really in like Union County, a lot of other areas around here, people will run affiliated with a party, or they'll go on mailers and things with people running for other offices that are partisan. So like Democrat people running for county stuff or local stuff, they'll join up on those tickets. And to me, kind of a way to like confuse people, because Union, Vauxhall, the area heavily leans Democrat when they vote here. And so what happens is they'll try to sort of jump on that bandwagon and try to get elected to the school board just because they're Democrats, not because of anything they believe in necessarily, to like help the school system out. Because like I think last year, everyone who ran, it was nine people or 8 people. I'm pretty sure all of them registered Democrats, but you had one side saying they were like the official Democrat group, the other side was just trying to be independent. So it gets messy with that. And really, I think why that is, like, there's so much money spent on that kind of stuff. Because like I said before, Board of Education is an unpaid position. It's volunteer if you're a board member, but the school board budget is tens of millions of dollars more than the town municipal budget. Okay. Like in Union, I think it's 90 something million dollars for the township committee budget. The Board of Education budget is closer to like 140 or 150 million. Okay. So you're talking almost like 50 million more dollars of contracts, of services, of all that kind of stuff. And to be blunt, it usually comes down to a case of follow the money. Like okay, the people who are on those boards are awarding these $1 million contracts. And so even though the position itself is unpaid, they control a lot of vendors, contracts, a lot of other people's salaries. And so, there's some political influence because those people might want to control who those contracts go to.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. You brought up the vendor issue because I know from having a background in the food industry that they had a bunch of people complained about the food services.
Yeah.
And not only is that a big contract, it's also a big responsibility. And a lot of food vendors really can't handle a school district.
Yeah.
Let alone anything else. Like, you got like Cisco. Cisco is like one of the biggest in the state. And I don't really think they can handle a school district and trying to stay within the guidelines, because you got to deal with the allergens.
Right.
It's a lot of opposed to when we were in high school. Even myself, I didn't know anything about people being allergic to food like that. Now from having a culinary background, you have to know the allergies that people have when you're dealing with food.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's interesting. What about you just got named to the board, right, on the Vauxhall Civic Society, right?
Yeah.
How's that experience? How's that?
It's been interesting. So I've been a member of the civic organization since they were officially kind of public as a group, which was I think in the fall of 2016 was when they formally became a group and elected officers. So I was a pretty active member in it in the last 3 years, volunteering to help set up or show up to do like a lot of the stuff that was going on there. Early on, like, me, I like to be involved in a lot of stuff, but I didn't necessarily want to be on the executive board early on, because I didn't feel like it was my place to be on that. Like I grew up in Vauxhall, but I didn't grow up in Union. And like a lot of friends who grew up in Vauxhall, and I was there a lot and things like that. Recently, it's a little bit different. Like a lot of the people who were on the executive board and started this group grew up in Vauxhall, or they lived there most of their lives, and they're known in the community. So I was just kind of there as like a member and a volunteer for a couple of years, for about 3 years. And I decided there was an opening for the assistant secretary, which is the spot I have now. And I decided to run for it, just as I thought I could help out more on that board. I even joked, we were talking a little bit before we went live about this, but I joked that when I was first part of the group, I think it took me longer to learn who a lot of the people were in the group than they took to learn me, because I was the only white person who came to the meetings most of the time. And so that's how like people knew who I was. And
I know with being in that position and being in a group. I know you were shocked at the dynamic of how everybody's like related. I know you were like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, everyone, because I knew a couple people, like, obviously just from like being around town and stuff. And I had said, oh yeah, like let me go to this first meeting they're having. And by the time I showed up, everyone's introducing me to their cousin and their brother and sister and everyone else. They knew I was coming before I even showed up there because they all talked before
yeah.
beforehand.
Vauxhall, like even myself growing up on that side of town, it's
Mm-hmm.
a very interesting dynamic of how everybody's like intertwined. If you're not
Mm-hmm.
related to this family, you could have a cousin who could be
Mm-hmm.
related to this family because
Yeah.
they had a baby with each other. It's
Yeah.
literally, I hate to give this example, but it's literally like the Hatfields and the McCoys. Like, everybody's related. Like, listen,
Mm-hmm.
your mother babysat me when I was a
Yeah.
kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. But that's
Now,
one of the reasons that I like Vauxhall in general, but like even from the Civic Association and meeting all the people and learning who they all were, like you mentioned, it's interesting dynamic, but it's like a very tight knit, good dynamic. Like that's why I
yeah,
think the Civic group is so successful
yeah.
because when it's time to mobilize and get stuff done, the people in Vauxhall mobilize and get stuff done.
Yeah, it's a like we discussed behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Vauxhall has it has a unique history.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of times people always thought that Vauxhall was like the black section of Union,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really hasn't been like that historically. It was never really like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
always been a mixture of versatility in Vauxhall and where
Mm-hmm.
you lived. Like when
Yeah.
my mom grew up on the bottom end of the Vauxhall,
Mm-hmm.
below Vauxhall Road,
Yeah.
and up top where First Baptist Church is at. My
Mm-hmm.
dad and his family moved there in the early '50s, and that was a lot of integrated. It's a very interesting dynamic of the town.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now your favorite subject, the political scene. What interests you in politics?
um I don't know. I think sort of being interested in being involved at all had a lot to do with my upbringing. Like my parents and especially my mom was always involved in the PTAs, and she was very much like into volunteering and getting involved. And don't complain about something if you're not willing to go out and make a change yourself. And that's the mentality that I was raised with. And so I think sort of growing up with that, I always sort of paid attention to that kind of stuff. Um, and so then when I was finally finished with college and grad school and everything, and I was back around the Union area more, I wanted to get involved, in like local politics and things like that. Not necessarily to be a politician or to get elected. I just wanted to be able to impact the community and help out my neighbors, help out businesses, help out people like that. And then this is something that's sort of like ironic. I always say to people is that sort of by getting involved a little bit with the things that existed already and seeing behind the curtain, I
Okay.
saw how not so great they worked at the time, and so that only made me want to do more and say, well, this isn't working to help people like it should be. We need to make some changes here, and that's sort of how I got even more involved to run for office.
Yeah, for the people that's watching the show live, remember to like, and you can also comment. If you got any questions for Jason, you can ask Jason any questions, and he'll try to ask as much as possible. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Uh, Now the political scene, Union County is like the Union County and Essex County are like the base of the
Yeah.
Democratic Party in
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
That's your party. You're a
Yep.
Democrat.
Yes.
Like 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? 3 years ago when we first met. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we had a very good conversation,
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
we talked about the dynamics of the
Yeah.
town. Then, and
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel like, or what do you believe like is the future of the Democratic Party in Union County?
Uh, Honestly, I think currently the party in Union and also in the county are at very much of a crossroads. And I think it sort of echoes what's going on nationally, where you have these more. I
Don't
mean, we
get
don't
me
have to get too
started
much
on
into
that.
that. Yeah, we won't get too much into that whole circus, but I think what's going on locally is kind of like a mini version of that, where you have these kind of whether it's like generational, like young and up and coming people, who are Democrats, but they're questioning, the status quo and kind of like these like establishment Democrat group that's existed for a long time. So, you have people who've like been there for decades, who've kind of shaped Union County politics to the way it is now. And I think a lot of people, as we get into younger generations coming up who have social media and have access to information more easily and things, they feel like they can affect change more politically. Being younger and being the area it is, like we said, a lot of those people are Democrats. And so while they're both Democrats, you have these more progressive group who are trying to come along and say, well, like this has been always done that same way, but why? Like, why can't we do things better or help this group of people or help these businesses or anything like that? And you have the older establishment group who, nothing wrong with the experience, not to like knock the people for age or being around or anything. Like, there's a lot of good people who have been there for a long time, but just as many are just kind of stuck in their ways and follow kind of politics of the 1970s and 80s, and we're in the 2020s now. So it's hard to say where it's going to go. I think those two groups are kind of butting heads a lot all over the place. Because I would consider myself part of the, younger progressive group that's coming along. And that's, who I butt heads a lot with locally, are kind of the more established Democrat group. And so while there are a lot of things we agree on that are big picture, I think the methods we might use to get to those finish lines are kind of different depending on which group you ask. So it'll be interesting to see which group kind of...
Yeah, I mean,
kind of drives it.
like you said, nationally, I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say anything. I don't consider myself following a party myself. I consider myself following policy, which
that's good.
Gets me into trouble and gets me into different conversations. But I'm not very pleased with the Democratic Party on the national scale.
Yeah.
Locally, I think that a lot of good things have happened. Definitely in New Jersey, a lot of things are a little crazy because it spills into the national aspect. But it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So I know that Union holds a major, as I would say, layman's term, weight within the county.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I don't think a lot of people understand that dynamic of, it's just Union. They don't hold no weight within the county, but it actually does hold a lot of weight within the county. Like, we talked behind the scenes about the township committee meetings and the lack of people coming.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I wish I knew, because then it wouldn't be so bad. But I think, honestly, and like we were saying, we were talking before we started going live, you see a lot of people who are unhappy with stuff going on in the town or the county or the state or whatever. And whether it's, on like Facebook, on like the Union forum or wherever it is, you'll see dozens or hundreds of people commenting saying they don't like something going on. But then maybe like a dozen show up to the meeting itself to kind of like in person tell the committee they have a problem with something. And I think it's a combination of stuff. I think like one is general apathy is one. I don't think a lot of people care about issues until it affects them directly. And it's hard to kind of solve that because, sometimes I don't blame people. It is frustrating to see when people don't show up to things like that because, I see other people who I know have busy lives and like they can make the time to be out there. Everyone should be able to. But at the same time, I don't even blame people sometimes just because, if you're worrying about your job or putting food on your table or picking up your kids from school and like how they're doing in school or, paying for colleges, if you're a little bit older and a student, you have student debt and you're just trying to worry about paying rent for that month or something. I almost don't blame people for not coming to a meeting about like we were talking about for the Board of Education with, like the policies about like the food or the redistricting or the whatever, because, like to them, their lives and their family and their job and stuff comes first. And, in like today's day and age, like I said, I don't blame people sometimes for that because, if you're struggling to get by with like a minimum wage job, or you're dealing with student loans, you have medical issues or whatever, it's hard to engage those kind of people and get out. And I think an issue that goes along with that too is that kind of like that kind of like established politician group I was mentioning. They kind of know that too, and so they're not doing anything to get those people out either. Like why make it easier for someone to come potentially criticize you or engage you or question you, and make your job harder if you don't have to. So I think it's a combination of the politicians who are in place now not trying to sort of get people more involved, and as other people, because of their everyday lives, are kind of apathetic to what's going on.
So I don't want to skip around issues, but to comment on your point, it's like what's wrong with just coming down, shaking hand, meeting a friend, right?
Yeah.
Back, you brought up the issue that I forgot to talk to you about on live was the redistrict. What are they doing with the board of education we talked about? Where they're changing
school zone redistricting.
The school zone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? I have a lot of apprehension with that.
Yeah, and that's people I've talked to a lot too feel that way too. Because to get into the conversation we were having before, a lot of that centers around making what was Central 5 and Central 6 in the past, now Jefferson School, making that into the local elementary school for Vauxhall, keeping all the other elementary schools in town, and then just kind of adding what Central 5 was to the middle schools. So like they'd be like 5th, 6th, 7th grade, I think, and sort of like change the age ranges and things like that. But the main part of it is making Jefferson School a local elementary school again. And I don't know, I'm torn on it, sort of like what you're saying, because like I see the point where everyone would love to have like a neighborhood school. Having something close by like that, and like Vauxhall again, like people can just walk to it. It's like close distance to kind of all the residences in the area. It's convenient for parents and students and everything like that. But like we were talking about before, what a lot of maybe newer people in town don't know is that it used to be the neighborhood school, and was changed specifically to do with desegregation, because a lot of the rest of the Union on the other side of 78 was predominantly white. And in Vauxhall, like you said, why it wasn't, not that diverse, it was a lot less diverse than the rest of town.
Yeah.
And thought it was like the Black or African American part of the area. So I do think Union has come a long way in terms of overall being more diverse. But my worry is if we don't have people who are in leadership roles at those schools or on the board who kind of know that history, and know that if that happens, we need to make sure we don't ever go back to segregated schools, or one school not getting as much resources as another school or anything like that, that we want to learn from our past and make sure we're not repeating that same sort of stuff in the future.
Yeah, it's like, you're right. We do all want to be progressive, but you don't want to put yourself back in the rabbit hole, so to say.
Right.
Something else. I done lost thought. Like I said, for anybody watching the show live, you could go into the queue and ask Jason any question you like to ask, comment, statement, negative, positive, whatever. Like, subscribe to the channel. He's here to try to answer any question as best as possible. He knew to wear the sweatshirt, so
Yeah, I got to represent with the farmer shirt.
That was smart. Yeah. State champions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good football season. What else did I want to discuss? We discussed the politics. I'm lost right now, man. I'm lost. I need a question from the queue.
Well, while we're waiting for that, I can talk a little bit too more about as far as redistricting.
Yeah.
I think that conversation's coming up a lot now. Not even necessarily because of the school in Vauxhall and Jefferson on that side of town. What's going on the other side of town with all the developments that are going on.
That's what it was.
So like that's kind of why we're having this redistricting conversation in the first place. Not so much to give some local neighborhoods back elementary schools, but because on the other side of town, by Washington School and Livingston School and even Connecticut Farms a little bit, A lot of multifamily houses going up. Developers buy, the cash, homes for quick cash type thing. Developers buy these houses and throw up 2 units there instead of 1. A lot of these mixed use places going up. A lot of the luxury apartment complexes that are being built. They're all on one side of town.
Okay.
So the issue is like a lot of the schools now, some of the classrooms are already getting kind of crowded. The student teacher ratio isn't that good. And now you're adding in all these developments. And while a lot of the luxury places and things are certainly priced and built in mind to have like young working professionals and people who might not have children at the time, you're putting in over 1,000 units in only a couple of school districts. So even if only a small amount of those people have children, let's say, only 50 families have kids in that area. That's 50 children at least, if they all only have 1 kid going now to one of those schools. That's 2 more full classes of children.
Wow.
You be putting in those schools. So like that's like a conversation that goes on, on the school board and things too a lot too, is that do we need to also upgrade and kind of build out on some of our schools just to accommodate what that might look like with all these people coming in?
I'm glad you reminded me, because that was actually one of the questions to ask you, as well as get your opinion on it. We were, like you were discussing the building and all these businesses coming to town. Do you think that, as me and you may say, even though we're difference in ages, it's like the old Union, the new Union, and now it's like, yo, this is not the town that we grew up in. It's more of, for a lack of better words, city-ish, and it's not more the township feel. I know my neighbor type of feel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because one of the things in the forum was, I noticed that a lot of people are upset with the traffic. And I am a traffic professional. I work in traffic every day. And I don't think a lot of people realize that a lot of times you're dealing with local, county, and state work being done and things getting built. How do you feel about that? Like, you remember when we were kids, the old Union Field where everybody knew everybody. And if you didn't know them, they moved there a couple of years ago. And now with all these businesses, it's like, I don't even know who's my neighbor anymore.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely see that kind of divide now. Like you said, like with a lot of like, even though there's like a different age between like you and me and you and, us and other people, it's still kind of people who like grew up here, born and raised here, like the 70s to 90s era, compared to the people who might be newer here now. And like I always say, and I'll, repeat it again, that I'm not against development. I'm against poorly planned development. And I feel like a lot of the ones that are popping up and being proposed in Union are poorly planned. Where like you look at, some other like smaller towns where, they might put like mixed use places where they have like the businesses and some like apartments above it. But, it'll be like 2 stories at most. A lot of the businesses are, kind of like more mom and pop or like unique places that kind of are around for the community. And I get that in this economy, those kind of stores are harder to kind of keep going, but there are places like that where it works. So you still keep that small town feel, and kind of like upgrade things in the meantime. What's going on in Union is we're getting these 4 and 5 story, multi-hundred apartment type places that are popping up all over the place. Being crammed in, or like other like favorite businesses, that you and I might have known growing up get demolished to put an apartment complex there now. And
I noticed that on the, I don't want to single the building out or single the owners out because they're trying to make money.
Right.
But the building that's next to that's on Vauxhall, that's on Burnett Avenue, next to the Stop and Shop.
Oh yeah.
The big building there.
Yeah.
If you look at the building, my sister used to live in Linden. That building has a building in Linden that looks exactly like it. And it's like they're apartments and they're 2-bedroom apartments, and it's like, oh my gosh. That the building in Linden is close to the train station. So I understand for the commute to biggest city in the world, but it's like, okay, now you built this
Yeah.
building in Burnett Avenue, and it's like more traffic, which,
Right.
dealing with Route 22 traffic
Mm.
and dealing with that Morris Avenue traffic
Yeah.
is rough for people that live in the area and have lived
Yeah.
in the area for years.
Yeah. Because even now, like, some of these places I mentioned, they're just building. They're not even occupied yet. And it's still now, will take you going from like the Springfield side of Morris Ave down to the Elizabeth side, 20 to 30 minutes just to go across the town. And
Yeah,
that's what all these places built up right now. And I think, sort of to add to that, I think an issue too is that Union has always been a very blue collar working class type town. And so that's like a thing I see a lot too, is when these developments go up where the houses are going for $600,000-$700,000 and the apartment rentals are, $2,500 for a single unit. And close over like $3,000 a month for like a double or something like that. That's not something that your average Union resident, like you or I or people growing up here, can afford or pay really. And I think that's, from what I've heard at least, like a lot of the issue with people in the town is that, who are these things being built for? Like, because this,
you
like, how does
know,
it benefit the people
you
here
know,
now and not?
Jason, don't get me
Uh-huh.
started on that because I'm gonna tell you, I personally believe like a lot of people have revitalization and gentrification mixed up.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
actually the same thing, and a lot of people think gentrification, oh, that's a race issue. No, it's
Hmm.
not really a race issue. It's a class issue,
Yeah, it's
and
like
it's kind of,
socioeconomic.
and it's
Hmm.
kind of like you said, it's kind of pushing people out.
Yeah,
Pushing people can't afford to live in Union no more.
yeah, because that was like not even as far as like the apartments and stuff. In Vauxhall on Hilton Ave near First Baptist, they bought that whole strip of houses there, and they made them all like those double unit 2-family houses. Um, and I remember when I was over there doing something for the Vauxhall Civic Group, I was like walking with one of the members, and they pointed those houses out to me and told me how much they cost to rent per month and whatever. And they're like, Vauxhall can't afford to live here. You like no one in the area could barely afford to live there. Like forget about Vauxhall, like Union, Springfield, Kenilworth, whatever. Like that's not for us to like buy those things. Like they're putting them up to get a certain type of more wealthy clientele in there, and that's not historically what Union has been.
If I was to tell you something about Hilton Avenue, what
Uh
we used to do, you'll laugh. I grew up on Montclair Avenue,
huh.
on the next street over. When I was a kid, each street played football in the street. Hilton Avenue, we used to play football in the street or
Hmm.
right there by Bethel, but
Yeah.
in their parking lot, we used to play football
Hmm.
in there. You can't. You don't even want
No.
to walk down the street now
No.
anymore. I mean, the street actually has too much traffic
Yeah.
coming through because now people have figured out coming off of 78
Hmm.
instead of getting to Springfield Avenue that way, you can come up Hilton Avenue, which
Yeah.
which I'm glad that the township finally built put the speed bumps there, and
Yeah.
really it's really uh you might as well say a little freeway now
Yeah. Yeah.
because the speed limit I think is like it has to be like 15 or 20 miles per hour. It can't
Yeah.
be
Something
but
like
so
that.
fast. Definitely
Hmm.
once you come past the school.
Yeah, because you're in a school zone up to that certain point anyway. So
Yeah.
people still fly through, cutting through off of 78 there and everything.
Next thing you know, they'll be putting a light there.
Yeah.
So, anything else you'd like to share, Jason?
um. Well, I guess there's one more thing too. You mentioned I wanted to jump back on talking about kind of like Union's position in the county and kind of like the
Okay.
weight it carries. Because like you mentioned, like you sort of know about that like people might not think that's the case, but Union's the second most populated town in the county after Elizabeth. Elizabeth is 120 something thousand, and Union's around 60. Everything else is less than that. Some way less than that. Um, so for like a lot of the things that get decided on kind of like a county level, the representatives for like the assembly or from the Senate in the area that represents
Hmm.
Union is pretty weighty. The position that I hold for the Democrat County Committee, um, those seats are based on population. So Union has 100 of those people. There are some towns that only have 20, 40. So like Union by itself with that kind of like group of committee people can outvote sometimes 5, 6 towns combined just by
Wow.
ourselves. So
Wow.
yeah, so I mean that's why this sort of last election with the county committee stuff where that I ran in and we got that group of people elected in, it made some waves because we got 15 new elected people to those spots, spending barely any money compared to tens of thousands of dollars that the other side was spending. You saw all the attack ads that went out about me and and everybody else. We still won those seats and. A lot of the people who got in now are doing some good work and being advocates for their area and, banging that drum for change and for people getting involved. So I'm hoping that sort of starts a trend with other people sort of seeing how important those roles are, how important Union Vauxhall is in the grander scheme of things. And, to our previous conversation, get some more people off the couch and kind of in the front lines there.
It's funny you said that because when I interviewed Jeff East, and I know he was being honest. Nobody knows what the district leader entails.
Nope.
So it's like,
yeah,
what's the possibility of this position? How far can a person take it?
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody could just have the position and just sit on their hands all day and not do nothing for their district.
Yeah,
because you can really advocate for your district and really like make Union that district. Basically, as we say, help everybody step up their game.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important too, because like you said, unfortunately, a lot of the people who hold those positions are the kind of sit on your hands, just be happy with the title. I'll see you at the next election type thing.
Wow.
But a lot of people, like you mentioned, Jeff, and other people who kind of ran with us when we ran and got in, we ran on making these roles have a bigger impact in the community. And so I think a lot of our people are doing a great job of that. I think a lot of the people who might have been in those seats and maybe didn't run with us, it's not like we're enemies. We're neighbors. We live in the same town. We're friends. I think it helps sort of get those people remotivated to maybe do more because we were raising the bar a little bit. And so, if they raise the bar and do more in their area and we do the same thing and raise the bar a little bit, that can only benefit the community if we're all have that same end goal in mind of just helping out the town.
That's another thing you just said that I think a lot of times, Union confuses a lot of people that just moved to the town or even some of the people that have been here. Like we're only, as they say, people are only enemies during election time. Yeah. Other than that, we're family. Meet me at the diner. We're gonna get something to eat and talk and discuss whatever. But we might not discuss politics. We might not discuss Board of Education.
Yeah.
When it's election time, we're gonna fight. We're gonna scrap. We're gonna, be firm on our views and our opinions and what we want to do. But other than that, we're family, and that's one of the dynamics that a lot of people is just like, wow.
Yeah, that's what always makes Union special. It's like that dysfunctional family. Like you see your family at the holidays, you may, beat them up, get in fights, whatever. But if any of them need help, if they, you got their back, they got your back at the end of the day, and that's kind of like you said. Like I'll be out there like in the campaign season. I get those attack ads about me in the mailbox, or we'll be going after them. They're coming after me. But then I stand out there on election day handing out flyers to people who sent out those things about me. We're having a nice conversation. It's not a personal thing. It's two opposing views, and we try to move past it, hopefully, after that.
Well, Jeff East just said District 42 is the cleanest district in Union. So any other district leaders that have complaints about their district, get in touch with Mr. Greg Nasta, because you're jealous because Jeff East is bragging about his district.
He keeps it clean over there.
Yeah. But other than that, anybody have any questions? We're going to keep Jason for a couple minutes. Yeah, that's interesting, man. Some of the one of the things that President Obama said before he left office was, thanks, Jeff. If you're going to complain about something, do something.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a challenge, even to myself. I won't consider myself. I love politics, but I don't consider myself a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes we all got to play our part. Everybody has a role to play in their uh, their township or their town or their
Yeah.
community. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the
Yeah.
things, like we discussed, is going to those meetings are vital.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could be like you said, it could be construction going on. I saw you put the construction thing up there
Yeah.
earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been somebody's street, and they would have known about that going on in the meeting if
Yeah.
they would have went or had the opportunity to go.
Yeah.
But they didn't know, and then they get the construction going on. Now they're inconvenienced. They can't park.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Then everyone complains after the fact when they when they
Jeff,
learn about it. But if they had gone beforehand, they would have known in the first place.
Jeff has a question for you,
Mm-hmm.
Jason. He
Yeah.
said, "What's up for 2020?"
It's a good question, Jeff. Thank you. A couple of new things on the horizon for me. Some things in the works, so I can't quite talk about them too specifically yet. But number one thing, for the last couple of months, I've been, going sort of back to that new like progressive mentality. Met a lot of people in like kind of the stuff that I've been doing locally throughout the whole county. Um, and we started this, progressive group in Union County. Um, just trying to kind of like replicate what we've done in Union, what other people have done in surrounding towns, as far as getting new people involved in politics and civics. Um, getting people off the sidelines, educating them first and foremost about all that kind of stuff we're talking about. Because the truth is, a lot of people just don't know these things go on in the first place. So what we're trying to do is kind of like educate people about the politics and the civics of Union County, and give them other choices for elective office. So we actually have a couple of events coming up. January 30th, I think. January 30th in Plainfield, and February 1st in Union at Cafe Z. We're doing a couple different kickoff events for the groups to kind of get our names out there, get some people involved. February 22nd in at Masker's Barn in Watchung. We're having sort of like an ethics gala for the group, kind of recognizing the good people in Union County who do things the right way.
Yeah.
That's one of the important things to us that if you grew up in the area like us, you know how certain things get done sometimes. So it's important to kind of recognize and highlight the people who do things ethically and morally and kind of put people first. So that's going to be on February 22nd. And, for anyone listening, I'm on Facebook. You can email me. It's just my name, Jason Krychiw @gmail.com, for more info on any of this stuff. So I'll be posting it up eventually. So that's going on in February. And then I'm also working with some people in primarily out of Newark and Essex County and the area.
Jeff, is that a question, Jeff? You want me to ask Jason? Can you see the questions, Jason, or just me?
No, I just see you.
Jeff, if that's a question, let me know. I can ask him.
Yeah, but so the other thing then too, the other big thing that I've been working on is we're working on a group to specifically kind of get younger people involved in the community and politics and in civics. Like I was saying at the beginning of the broadcast, I think there's a hunger in a lot of younger people these days to get involved in those things, and they might not know how to sort of jump into that arena in the first place. And so what this organization is going to try to be is just to try to educate, inform, and empower younger people and the next generation of leaders to kind of get involved and do that kind of stuff. Because, I always say that, I might disagree with the people who have been in office for a long time now, but if in 5-10 years, whatever, someone's not coming along to say the same thing about me and that my ideas are outdated, then I haven't done my job sort of getting the next generation involved. So
Yeah,
we're hoping to get that done.
Jeff is messing with you on this question.
Oh, yeah.
He said, "Why is it always dress down day for the progressives? Don't you think they do their message a disservice?"
I know Jeff. Jeff, I think every time I've seen him at an event, always has a 3-piece suit on. So he sets the bar a little bit high. So we can meet in the middle ground somewhere, maybe like button-down shirts and khakis or something.
Jeff, man, people want to wear sweats sometimes. Jeff, come on, man. Come on, support the U.
I got to rep a union too.
Support the champs, Jeff. Nah, I know you're going to support them regardless.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What else? What else? It was something else. I can't remember right now. Bad interview skills. Real bad interview skills. But if that's all, Jason, we could close the show. And thanks for joining me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Q, for having me on. I appreciate it.
I mean, I'd like to do more shows like this, which if they pop up, I know time is kind of hard for everyone to have the right time with everybody's schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully everybody that sees the show will get out, and whether you're in union or not, whatever community you're in, if you pay taxes, which everybody does, you have a right obligation to your community. And so just come out and support. Like I said, like with Jason, I know Jason tries to make the meetings all the time. I had a cousin that used to go until he passed away, and he used to always tell me years ago, "Yo, come over to the meetings, let your voice be heard." Yeah. But I wasn't trying to hear that at the time. I was into too many other things. But if that's all, we're going to close the show. And like I said, thanks for joining us, Jason.
Yeah, thanks so much, Q. Appreciate it.
All right, you don't have to go. We're going to finish talking.
All right.
All right.